Welcome everybody to week 3. I'm going to be talking about page 26 in your textbook, and this is going to be one of our first writing assignments that's turned in and graded. You're doing your journals right now, and that's good. But this time we're really going to take a look at a written assignment that delves deeply into words that we use in our writing. So on page 26, this is going to be an assignment that you are going to replicate. In other words, you're going to do one of your own word definitions that you're going to extend, and you're going to use this format that you see on this page. So what is an extended definition? You really are going to use these when you get into the next level of writing. English 200, English 1A, English 1B, your higher levels of English writing will have you use extended definitions when you write all kinds of different reports. You could be doing a summary. You could be an analysis of a reading. You could be doing a compare-contrast. You can be doing something argumentative. There's many different ways that you will use an extended definition in your own writing. So what it is that you take a concept or a word that maybe a lot of people wouldn't know. We can't assume that they know this. And you analyze it. And the way that you analyze this particular word is to take it apart at different levels. So we're going to answer questions based on this word that really delves deeply into the word to give the reader a true understanding of the concept. So the example here is culture shock. Let's say that people that would be reading this particular essay may not be really truly familiar with what culture shock is. They might have a little bit of an understanding, but do they truly know how extensive this word can reach on many different levels, okay? How extensive this is. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to ask several questions about a particular word that you come up with. Now, culture shock is the example here. So the first question is, what is it? And so that's more like its definition. And you would probably look it up in a dictionary or something to that effect, or just use your own words from your idea of what the definition is. And so it says the definition here, it's a feeling of confusion, anxiety that someone may feel when he lives or visits another culture. Why another culture? Because we're talking about culture shock. Okay, that's what it is. But what is it not? And a lot of people don't think about putting this in their essays when they're trying to explain a concept about this word is not this or it's not that. So you can really help define or narrow what this word means. So what this concept is not for culture shock, it's not unusual, it's not an illness, and it's a normal part of an experience of living abroad. So if someone were to experience this type of shock, well, we want the reader to know, hey, this is not unusual, and it's not an illness, and you will get over it. And so it gives them a deeper understanding of what this word can be. And then what we want to do is we want to draw a comparison of this word culture shock to some other kind of experience. So it asks the questions, well, what is it similar to, or what is it not similar to? Well, what it says is if you have ever felt uncomfortable or lost in a new place, like if you were in a new school or a new job, and you don't know anyone, you have come close to understanding what culture shock is. So in this example, they're drawn a parallel or a comparison to, well, it's like feeling lost in a new city or lost on your job or in a new school. It's that same kind of feeling. It's uncomfortable. And then what does it consist of? Now we want to look at it in maybe can we break it down into different stages or phases or different elements of what it is. And not all of the words that you look at can be broken down into phases or stages, but culture shock can be. And in this case, it's saying you can look at it in 4 stages. First, you're excited to be in a new place, and then to complete adjustment. And then this person would go further maybe and saying this is what the 4 stages are. Okay? The characteristics means what would you, it's almost like the symptoms that you would feel. And what the symptoms would be, or the result of these stages would be depression or isolation or confusion. But ultimately, once you get through all that, the traveler is going to have a deeper understanding of his old and his new culture, because you're going to be making these comparisons of what that feels like. So what does it consist of, and what are its characteristics? They can be kind of the same question. It depends on the word. So you would just have to experiment with your word to see if you can actually divide it into what it consists of and what its characteristics are. Now, the examples, you definitely want to be able to provide an example. And this person provides a personal example. It says, when I lived in France, I was embarrassed to speak. If I used the words incorrectly, I thought people would laugh at me. I felt alone. I felt shy. My self-esteem was affected. That kind of thing that you could add as a personal example. Now, how does it work? This goes into the broader scale of your words. So this person's going to take culture shock and say, okay, this is everyone. Anyone who experiences going to a different culture will experience this. But people will go through it in different speeds. And most people will reach a level of being comfortable, and they will adjust eventually. So that's kind of how it works. How it's used, since culture shock is not really used, you're not really going to answer that question. But some of you may choose a word where you will use that particular item, or it might be a thing or a piece of machinery or something else like that. You might be able to use whatever your word is. Okay? And then why is it important? And I think this is another good way of looking at your word, because if you're talking to someone from a different culture and they want to know, well, is that word important? Why should I know that word at such a level? And that's what you're going to write in this box here. It's important to understand culture shock so that you are not surprised when you have these feelings yourself. So this is what this chart consists of. Now for you, what your writing assignment is going to be is you are actually going to go and choose a word from your culture. Okay, and I'm going to provide this template here for you. I'll put a link to it in the course this week. You can make your own. If you don't like working with a Word document, you can make your own, and then you can save it as a PDF, or you can save it as something else. But I prefer you use Word. It's that way I can make comments on your writing when you turn it into me. But there's a few ways that you can turn in this assignment, but I've just made it very convenient for you. So you're going to put your word here, okay? And it could be a word, it is supposed to be a word in your language. So what you'll do is you can type the word using your particular writing, your alphabet, and then you need to translate it in English so I can understand it. So the word might be an idiomatic expression like get lost, or no skin off my nose, or, it could be idiomatic, or it could be a word that expresses love or hatred or anger. It could be something you use in a polite situation, a word that you would use to say hello, but only to certain classes of people. So think of a word from your culture, in your language, and then you're going to, in English, explain that word to a person who doesn't know your word. And you're going to answer, what is your word in your culture, and what is it not compared to English? Okay? What is it similar to or dissimilar to? What does it consist of? What's its characteristics? Give us some examples of your word. How could we see your word being used in your culture? How does it work? Why is that word important in your culture? In other words, your job is to become a teacher and teach me, your student, about this very important word in your culture, or at least a word that you think is important, and give me the understanding by me being able to read this chart and understand that word. Okay, so your goal again is to look something like this at the end. Now, if you turn the page to page 27, I want to show you how a person who wrote a definition paragraph, which is what you guys are going to do, not this week, you're going to use your chart a little bit later on to write a definition paragraph. But let me show you what it looks like in practice. So on page 27, this person chose to write a definition paragraph about language. So they did their homework. Before they wrote this definition paragraph, they answered these questions in a chart. What is language? What is it not? What does it consist of? What are the examples? Why is it important? Okay, so let me walk through it with you so you can get an idea of how they used that chart to write this definition paragraph, which makes your writing so powerful and so intelligent and so academic. And that's why I really want you guys to do this assignment so you can really get a good feel of it. Okay, so what is language? So the person answers it right here. And I'm gonna get a marker for you. And it says language is one of the distinguishing capacities of human beings. The dictionary defines language as, and so remember I said that what is, that's going to be your definition, okay? So what is language? We're going to say language is the system of communication in speech and writing that is used by people of a particular country or area. That's what language is. Now I stopped there because it transitioned to, but in reality. That means that there is something that is more, that is not just a system of communication, but there's much more to it. So that's going to help me answer what is language not. So language not is, it's not just communication. So I can say, but in reality, right? It's more than communication. So down here, if I were to answer the chart, what is language not? I would say language is not just communication, but more than that. It's beyond communication. Okay? And I would just stop there. That would be the sentence I would make. Then I can go on to question 3. What does language consist of? Well, when you get the question, what does language consist of means comprises. Comprises is the same as consists of, okay? So a particular language comprises not only of grammar, vocabulary, but also aspects of the speaker's culture, their tradition, their knowledge, their rules of behavior, their forms of social interaction. So all of this is what language comprises of, what it consists of, what are its characteristics. Remember I said that on this page over here, what does it consist of and what are its characteristics? That can be one and the same, okay? So if you want to combine these two, that's okay. So coming back here, this is what it consists of. It consists of culture, traditional knowledge, rules of behavior, and forms of social interaction. So if I was making a chart for this, if I was going to make a chart for it, I would put that under what does language consist of. There's something else here I want to show you. It also said not only. You could have actually put this not only grammar and vocabulary, you could have actually put this, what is language not? You could have said language is not just communication, it's not just grammar and vocabulary. Because these negatives here, but in reality, not only, these tell us what something is not. It's not just that, okay? Now down to 4, what are some examples of language? Well, how do we find that? Well, we can find that down here. For instance just means, for example, right? It's the same way of saying, for example. So they gave the Moravo language as an example. And they said, how does Moravo understand fish behavior? Or in Japanese, the complex system of honorifics, that means how you use people's names to indicate the relationship you are between that speaker and listener. They use different suffixes for that to express the complex social rules that are important in that country. Okay, so those are examples of language. So they use Moravo to understand fish behavior, and they use Japanese to understand the complex system of greeting people in the Japanese culture. What kind of language do they use to make that so important? And now the last thing, why is language important? They say it down here. The deeper definition, I'll put that in blue, the deeper definition of language helps explain why translation is so difficult and why so much human knowledge is lost when language dies. That's why language is so important. So here you have an example. Now, this is a higher level example, everybody. This is an example from a college textbook, and you may not be able to write at this level of language yet, and that's okay. I don't want you to feel that I expect you to write exactly at this level, but it's a good model for you. So I want you to do the best you can, but look how highly academic, look this, how intelligent, how sophisticated this one paragraph looks by just giving a definition of a term that we're using in our writing. And this is going to be powerful for you to use. You see that? So now when you guys get to your assignment here, and you choose your word from your culture, okay, like Annyeong haseyo, or konnichiwa, or salam, or choose a word in your culture that you use all the time, but maybe someone who is English speaking does not understand. So again, your job is to be a teacher. Teach me about your culture through defining an important word. All right, I hope you find this helpful. This is going to be due in about 1 week. I might give it 1 week to 10 days just to make sure that you guys are really working hard on this, and you will be able to turn this in the assignment area in the course. So to submit this assignment, you would come in and search for week 3. And under week 3, I have assignment week 3 and word definition chart. It's worth 30 points. You will want to click on the word definition chart. And over here, you have my directions on what you should do, what you must do. It must be in chart form. It must be typed. You should be using the form I gave you that I showed you before. This one here, you should be submitting this one. Wherever you save this on your desktop, you should be submitting this form here. So when you're ready to do this, hit Submit Assignment. And when you get here, you can see that there's a file entry or file upload and a text entry. Most of you are going to use this file upload. So however you created this chart, it has to be typed. So if you did it in Word or you did it in another processor, if you saved it, whether it's a text file or Word file, you can do PDF, but I can't mark up. I can't do comments on a PDF. So if you do that, I'm not going to be able to make comments on your submission. So just keep that in mind. You can do it, but I'll have to make comments off of the paper, not onto it. So I prefer you don't do that. So go ahead and you choose a file, and then naturally wherever you have your file, whether you have it in your documents or wherever you would go to find that file, you would click on that file, and then you would be good to go. Okay, and then you would click open, but I'm not going to do that since I don't have that assignment because I didn't do it. And then any comment you want to make to me, anything you think I should know, you could type in here and make your comment. You don't have to. And then you submit assignment, and I'll get it, and I'll start working on that. If you choose to, and I don't recommend necessarily do it, but let's say you don't have Microsoft Word or whatever else, you can actually do the text entry directly into this assignment field. Let's say you don't have a word processor and you don't want to upload it. I would recommend that you get a sheet of paper and you do the entire assignment on the sheet of paper. And then once you've got it all written out, then you can click this text entry, and then you can make your own chart here. So if you want to do that, you can do that. And there would be 2 and about 6 columns maybe here. And then you can do your own. You want to type what your word is, and then you want to say, what is it? What is it not? You make your own chart here, and you can work on it right in this assignment field. But I would need for you to put your word up here somewhere, okay? So maybe you could put your word here is, let's say, togetherness. So let's say the word is togetherness in your language. Maybe that's what it means. So then you would type down here, what is it? What is it not? And so you're typing this directly into this field, okay? And then you can make your comment and then you can submit the assignment. But again, most of you are just going to do a file upload and submit your assignment. That will come to me and you'll be good, and I'll give you my feedback and you'll be good to go. Okay, pretty easy. If you have any questions, please email me through Canvas and I'd be happy to answer your questions. All right, I hope you really enjoy this exercise. Well, you might not enjoy it, but let me tell you, it is going to be one of the best skills that you're going to learn to do to help your writing go to the higher level. All right, I hope this has helped a lot for everybody, and I will see you online. Have a great week. And remember, I know there's a lot of work in this course, but this is a 6-unit class, and my job is, it's like having 2 writing classes in one, and my job is to get you guys ready for the higher levels of English and native speaking classes. So I may have to push you a little bit, but you can do it, and pretty much almost everybody passes my class because I'm really invested in your learning, and I want you to pass, and I want you to be successful. So stay with me, do the work. You'll be fine.